Microhydro is a fantastic way to make off-grid power, especially if you have the drop and water flow required to make that power. You're watching DIY Volts. I was given a tour of a microhydro system from a fellow named Jay. He set up his whole system and it's making close to or over 800 watts, which is a lot of power from microhydro. This system has a great intake, Penstock, PMA, and the electronics feeding his house. And I'm going to let him give you the walkthrough of the whole system because he knows it a lot better than I do.
Here's my intake. It's a Coanda box that can process over 1,200 gallons per minute. I, on the other hand, only need about 100 gallons a minute. I run 3-inch high-density polyethylene pipe for 1,000 feet down the mountain. I've got about 160, 170 vertical feet of drop. The significance about the intake is how far it is away from the house. I couldn't be more happy with this system. I literally just leave it. I didn't come up here all summer. During the leaf fall this year, I didn't come up here at all. It is self-cleaning. As you can see, there will be a little samurais from the poplar trees, which we are surrounded by poplars, and it's chock full of leaves, but it's not on the screen. I get the right amount of water that I need all the time. Lesson that I did learn from other YouTubers and people like Seth is invest big on your intake system. Don't skimp, spend the time and your effort and do it right. So that's what I did here. I got about a half a dozen of 6x6 timbers. They're all pressure treated. I did not put in the pond liner to begin with because I didn't think that I needed it. I did. So a few months into the system, I noticed that water wasn't coming over, it was coming everywhere but. So I put the pond liner in and now we have continual flow of water over the system. I haven't had to dig out any silt or sediment yet. My hope is that I can actually fill in some of the cracks behind it and it will sort of self-seal and then even more water will flow over if I ever wanted to add another line. What I have here at the top are ring clamps with rubber gaskets, and as I put in my pipe I noticed that it was sort of sliding down the hill. Lo and behold, whenever I had rolled it out, I let the sun straighten it out because it comes in a roll, and then as water started flowing through it, it cooled the pipe down. Well, the pipe contracted and it pulled it away from the Coanda screen. So at various locations up here at the top, I have rubber gaskets that are kind of holding it, and I have like 2 and 1 foot little system connections up here at the top, including this PVC connection. I think over 1,000 feet, I've probably shrunk 10 feet, 12 feet, which is significant along the way. Whenever I was pulling this penstock up here, I found myself crawling under rhododendron thickets and all sorts of stuff. But it's essential that you constantly keep your pipe going downhill. You don't want any air spots or low spots where air can settle. That will change the width of your pipe. And whenever you do get air into your pipe down at the bottom, air has a place to go. It will not settle. I use straps like this to keep it up the gradient that I want, as well to keep it out from the creek. Whenever I initially did it, I calculated that my flow was around 400 gallons a minute. A forethought of me installing my hydro system is that I never wanted the creek to run dry. We are now in the middle of November, which is our dry season, our fire season up here, and we've still got close to 50, 60 gallons a minute flowing through the stream naturally. During the summer, there will be 400 gallons flowing through here. So anyone who thinks that, you know, taking away a little bit of water is disrupting the ecosystem, not that much. Whenever I was pulling up this pipe, I went through several trials of how to get an 1,000-pound, 500-foot long piece of black plastic up to where I needed it in the woods. My first trial was I built this rig with a car battery and a winch system. It was not powerful enough and it did not work. I decided to then invest in a 500-foot long piece of rope, some pulley blocks, and my truck. And what I did was I would put a pulley block ahead of me, tie the rope to the end of the pipe. I would have 2 holes drilled into the end so you could just grab it and pull it, and then pull it a certain distance with the rope tied to the truck on the other end. So, zoop, up the hill. A lot of folks think that the pipe is unsightly. I am one of them. So, where you can see it from my driveway here, I made this little rock Irish knee wall with moss and everything to cover up the pipe, and you know, it provides a bit of insulation too during freezing temperatures. Conveniently, I already had a culvert to go underneath the driveway. This is one of my only connectors throughout my system, my Penstock system. I have 500 feet this way and 500 feet this way. This is where they meet. These are a bear to get on. At the end of your Penstocks, you will have coils, just how they naturally are. You can lay them out in the sun as long as you want, and they still will have that coil. You have to cut off a certain amount to where the pipe is straight for them to meet. If they don't, you will not get this on there. I decided to invest in external couplings as opposed to internal couplings. Where internal couplings create friction and lower your pressure, external couplings are the way to go for a system like this. As I showed you earlier, we have multiple external connectors throughout my system. Up top you saw the 3-to-3 combiner. This is a 3-to-2, 3-to-2, both HDPE. I could not find a 3-to-2 PVC, but they do make a 2-to-2 PVC. Hindsight, if I would have changed things, I would have probably moved this system closer. You want the thickness of your pipe to go as close to the turbines as possible. Whenever it shrinks down like this, it causes friction, which lowers your PSI. The plumbing side of my turbines has been a work in progress. I initially had 4 sets of lines coming in. Each came into its own nozzle on either side of the turbine. However, I wasn't getting enough efficiency out of it, i.e., I could use more water if I had more lines. The way I'm doing this now is, this is a 2-inch line, that's a 2-inch line. It comes to 3 nozzles so that I can use as much water as possible to be more efficient. These are my unions. If you're into turbine or off-grid living, you will understand that you will need to work on your turbines every now and again. This helps me just take off an individual turbine as needed to do work, adjust nozzles, plumbing, anything. I have 2 PMAs, Permanant Magnet Alternators. I just call them turbines. And they are connected by individual electrical lines, which are 10-2 that run from here all the way to the house. The run is about 200 feet. The metal housing prevents water from splashing everywhere. I've yet to find a way to prevent all water from getting inside my turbine house here, but this is working pretty good and I'm pretty happy with it. Each one of these tight 90-degree joints creates friction. Friction lowers your pressure. So what I would do if I could go back and change things, and I might do this in the future, is build a bigger house, and each line that comes in has a big swoop to it. And that would limit the amount of friction created and would create more pressure overall. And it may sound trivial, 10, 20 watts per nozzle, or 10 or 20 knots per nozzle, but that's continuous. And over 4 nozzles, that's a lot of watts. I decided to put 2 4x6s measured to where the excess water would leave the turbine and go right underneath. It seems to be working pretty good. Now that we've seen the water side of things, let's take a look at the inverter and the electrical side. This is where my 10 gauge wire comes into one of my turbines. The other one is on the other side. Because the wire were to be exposed here, I decided to put it in conduit. We're inside now, and this is where all the magic happens. So the power comes in from the turbines right through here. This is 10 gauge wire, and it comes into what is referred to as a rectifier. From this rectifier, the AC power is created to DC power. That DC can then either be stored or used by the house. This is a DC breaker in order to cut power that is necessary for safety. This here is a midnight solar surge protector in case I have a lightning strike or any sort of surge that happens outside of the home. It protects this expensive piece of equipment right here. Quite necessary. Also, coming out from this system, I have a ground rod with a bare copper wire that's hammered 10 feet into the ground outside. This is all attached. Very important for safety. This right here is my Schneider Connects XW Pro. I couldn't be any happier with this system right here. I am currently using 1.87 kilowatts, which is obviously more than I'm generating. However, with hydro, when you sleep, it's charging your batteries. And these are my batteries here. Right now, I have 2 Life Power 4 100 amp hour batteries. These are both lithium ion phosphate batteries, and they do fairly well, and they hold enough power because I have micro hydro. This system is all scalable. So within the coming months, I will be buying 4 more batteries to increase my capacity so that I can run my well pump here at the house, which requires a little bit more because it's a deeper well. These little wires right here, those go to a Connects battery monitor. They tell me what percentage my battery is, what the battery temp is, also what the volts coming out are, and what the life expectancy of my battery will be. These batteries should give me well over 10 years, hopefully 15 years of life. This is my bus bar system here. This is my shunt. This is also necessary for my battery monitor to work properly. Right here is the mini PDP, which is all I really need. This is my load center right here. The inverter loads come in. This is where the grid comes in. This is my disconnect, and then this is my PV disconnect. I am connected to the grid, so whenever my batteries get to a certain level that I have set, the grid will connect and carry the loads while my turbines charge my batteries. And then once my batteries get to a safe level, then the inverter will connect back over to off-grid, and once again we'll be running off of turbine power. As a caveat, I'm not an electrician. And before I started designing this system or putting the system in, I told myself I would never do electrical work. However, I live where electricians don't. So I became better of an electrician than I was. So whenever you're hooking up this panel, you have your PDP down here. Your PDP is your power distribution panel. This is your load center. So everything comes in and out of here. So from your main panel, what your grid is, I have 2 wires on a 50 amp breaker down at the bottom of the panel. They're double pole breaker. Those 2 wires come and they connect in here. The 2 wires come out of here or come from the grid to here, all right? Then we have a 3 wire, which is 2 hots and a neutral, come from here to my load center, which is on the other side of the house. It's just the way it had to work. I also have multiple grounds throughout the system. These panels are grounded not only to themselves, but also to the grounding rod outside. This battery monitor checks this rat nest of wires down here and basically lets me know how my batteries are doing throughout the day. We're at 51.2% now at 52 volts, which is not bad considering we're halfway through the day. Tonight, these batteries will charge back up and be around 70%. It's a little low right now because we're running the heat in the house, but normally if the furnace isn't on, the batteries are full at all times. Right here's my power flow monitor. My house is currently using about 1.1 kilowatts and my batteries are producing 0.5 of that. This right here is my panel box. I also have a midnight solar charge protector on my AC side of the load as well. In case lightning hits a line somewhere not here, my loads are protected as well as my inverter, because my inverter is connected to the grid side because I am not completely off grid. This is my pretty panel. This is my 40-year-old panel.
Big shout out to Jay for showing me his micro hydro system. Also, Spencer Langston, who has great equipment for micro hydro and solar as well. I appreciate both of them helping us out in making this video here. Also, if you want to check out my system, I have off-grid solar and I'm using the Signature Solar batteries and also the inverter. I'll have a link to that in the description with a discount code. I'm Seth with DIY Volts, and I will see you in the next video.